Central Riccarton Residents Association, I understand that the name of the person who is coming up was on a piece of paper that I now can't locate. Where is that gone? Oh, I put it in the rubbish, that's fine. Sorry. Margaret Grace.
Yes.
Thank you.
Good morning. I'm here as a resident of the Central Riccarton Residents Association to verbalise a submission. The actual one was more detailed, so I shall only cover parts of it this morning. Central Riccarton, basically the area surrounding Westfield Moor, has changed beyond recognition in recent years. Some residents even remember fields and orchards in an area now probably the most densely populated in Christchurch, the second largest mall in New Zealand, and two of the busiest roads in and out of Christchurch. We were pleased by the long-term plan consultation document. It seems to be frank, complete, and lists many options rather than saying this way or that way. I hope everyone who had an opinion on the long-term plan read the document from cover to cover. There's a feeling that people currently in key positions, chief financial and executive officers among them, have more understanding and feeling for this city than have been in the past. The vast majority of residents in central Riccarton live in rental properties and so exhibit great examples of how low and inflexible incomes have been affected by the earthquakes and their resulting problems. As with most residents of the city, we've had to tighten our belts. Large rent increases have affected us, as well as increased traffic and social changes caused by the influx of shoppers and evening patrons. We think it's also a time for the City Council to tighten its own belt and help those who make Christchurch what it is today and what it will be in the future. Rates cannot be allowed to rise by the amounts being considered. We should not accept this as individuals or as a city. My rates are currently 8.5% of my net income, and if proposals go through, they would rise to nearly 11%. I pay relatively more by living on my own, the same as 25% of Christchurch households. We totally endorse Mr. Brownlee's comments about reducing fairly unnecessary expenditure. Quote, a polite way of saying waste. Some examples of saving might be sending rates bills and council invoices by email. Most utilities do this. Let's say 130,000 household ratepayers, 4 bills a year, 70 cents a go, instantly $360,000 saved. Reducing unnecessary trips and courses, an old favourite, but it's what the rest of us are having to do. Let's look at grants. Yes, they're important, but is it the local government's job to sponsor individuals on trips? Supplying of excessive refreshments at council events. Very nice, but is it necessary? In-depth projects undertaken by staff that then disregard the input that's been asked for. For us, a moot point, bus stops, but also Victoria Square. Printing. The quantity of printed items produced by the council must be phenomenal. There has to be some belt tightening there. Just like all other families and companies, there may be small ways to save that can add up to a substantial amount.
Taken him on.
Perhaps more controversially would be the introduction of business rates, secondary housing rented out other than to family or whānau. It happens a lot in our area. 4, 8, sometimes a dozen houses rented out by the same person, not to mention the rooms within those houses. Surely that's a business like any other. We should be treated like one. Communities. Share an idea was monumental in looking to local communities to work together to make a greater whole Christchurch. Why waste this opportunity? Well, there's a quote there from Jane Barron. People want local facilities. Yes, central facilities are important for those that work in the city and those visiting, but most people's lives do not happen in the centre of Christchurch. They need facilities that build communities, like the previous speaker said. Libraries, swimming pools, parks, community and service centres with a local focus. Families cannot drive to the centre of city at 4 o'clock for swimming lessons or netball matches. The traffic's bad then. Well, it's bad all the time, isn't it? They need smaller local facilities now. Central Riccarton doesn't have a library. We had to start our own. I know we cannot put everything off, but huge central library, metro facility and a stadium are luxuries at the moment. Let's make Christchurch a place where small is beautiful. Let's think outside the square, literally. The current rugby stadium has shown, by having the best attendance records for the New Zealand Super Rugby franchises, that a smaller, cosy venue is enjoyed by everyone. Stadium in other cities have caused huge spending nightmares. So save it. Put it into economic development. Let's support that paper mill that's going to recycle the whole country's paper. Manufacturing brings life to a region. A convention centre supposedly will not cost anything for us to build, but the maintenance could cripple us. It now appears the cost is going to be prohibitive. So let's look outside the square at other ways of having meetings in Christchurch, hotels, the university, to name a few. Visitors are important, but we are not an entertainment centre. It's nice to have big events, but not with a large price tag attached. Residents need to know that they're not going to be underwater when it rains before they can start enjoying these extras. We agree that it may be prudent to consider adjusting the holding of shares the council owns to Christchurch City Holdings. It is not selling the silver to do this. In most cases, it would be good to keep a majority shareholding. For instance, it would be a benefit to sell off some shares in Littleton Port Company. Let's widen the expertise that's sorely needed and introduce better working practices and improve the facilities. The council's talking common sense in removing some of the assets, such as V-Base, from its list of strategic assets. They're nice, but not necessary. Other projects, with groups such as the New Zealand Transport Authority to develop a rail network, which is just crying out to be done, between Rangiora, Ashburton, Darfield and Christchurch. It should be looked at with urgency, combined with sensible solutions to traffic problems, such as park and ride. Let's save money on the proposed Riccarton Road upgrade, which is looking at traffic in a small part, not the whole problem. Planting trees and reducing parking will not help much, if at all. Let's start the cycleways. Why not build them alongside the existing rail tracks? Surely that's not going to cost $156 million. People want to be encouraged onto their bikes, but they want to feel safe. Everybody has a wish list of what they want, but we have to get our core business right, then build ourselves up. Christchurch has to be a city for the people who live here, first and foremost. We want practical, achievable solutions, and we want to be involved.
Thank you. Very powerful submission. Has anyone got any questions? Jimmy.
Thank you. I have two questions, Margaret. The first one, after the February 2011, the earthquake, the Riccarton Community Center has been shut down, even still shut down for more than 4 years. In your submission, you particularly emphasize it still show for the kind of temporary community facility, etc. So what is your point of view? How to make it happen for those the original community group can use?
We are talking with people in the council with that, so I don't really want to say too much, but it's been discussed at length. Again, things take time and money, which, shouldn't spend if we don't need to. But we just need to get on and build something. There is space, we just need to make decisions. Let's say, think outside the square, service centre and library downstairs, community centre upstairs,
Because my question is probably new one, rebuild the same size will be another 3 years.
There's no space in central Riccarton. Mm-hmm. That's the problem. We can't find another spot to build something on. We've only got what we've got. We'd like to talk to Westfield Mall, they like listening. We need the council, we need to keep talking to them. They're very powerful people, but they can make things happen if we talk to them. Perhaps come to some agreement. The council has land there.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
I have a second question.
No, I'm afraid we've run out of time. But look, thank you very much. As I say, a very powerful submission and one we'll obviously be taking into account. Murray Jamieson.